thank you again for doing this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my first time doing something like this, so bear with me if I stammer through things a little bit.
No, no problem.
Uh,
This is going to be a new experience for me too. So we'll just do this together and see how it goes.
Killer, I love it. Cory, your last name Hentrup, is that right?
Yeah, yeah, you got
Yeah,
it.
yeah, nice, nice. Sounds like it. Sounds like it reads like it spells. Yeah,
Yeah,
Cory Hentrup. Roller Dome. That's the thing I know you sort of sort of best for right now. At least that's sort of like in the forefront for me. Sort of desert rock stuff. Pretty
yeah,
cool
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
sure. Yeah, that's I get to play my synthesizers in that band, which is and I've always had a love for that. So of course I'm having fun doing that stuff. So yeah, yeah,
Nice, very cool. And then so when I put out this post, or I set a post up a couple of weeks ago, basically saying that I was looking for new movies to watch, and like the only thing that I was looking for from the for criteria, I guess, was just that it was worth watching. Like somebody gave me a good reason, and you were one of the first people that responded, and yeah, it gave me a list. But Near Dark was one of the ones that I hadn't seen that I thought was an interesting place to start. Do you want to just maybe share a little bit about why you chose that for me, why you picked that for me?
yeah. And it had to be like the first one off the top of my head, just because I feel like just until recently, I feel like um so like the way I found it was because I'm just a huge Tangerine Dream fan in general. And there was a time where I was like, okay, I'm just gonna look up every movie Tangerine Dream has done a score for and then just go through those. And then I stumbled upon Near Dark, and I'm just like, whoa, I'm seeing half of the aliens, actors on this film, um, and even just the first shot, I'm just like, oh, like, and like, kind of slightly off topic, like. I'm not a big Tom Cruise fan, but I loved Risky Business just because of, the Tangerine Dream soundtrack.
Gotcha.
So, so yeah, and then there was this large gap of time, I feel like 2 or 3 years, where I couldn't even stream this movie on anything. And and then I just felt like, and then like, oh my God, you haven't seen Near Dark, and like, there's nowhere to watch it. And like, so I think that's why I was like on the top of my head, because it just recently popped on like Roku, Tubi, like I feel like just a couple weeks ago. So that was kind of the main reason why that was like first thing you have to watch, because I don't know how long it's going to be streaming for.
For sure. What was
Yeah.
a good suggestion for sure. It filled like a couple of different blind spots for me. I I have this like it's like the first thing that popped up was like a Dean De Laurentiis produced by tag,
Okay,
which is
yeah.
like that like kind of trash king thing, and that's like a
Yeah.
huge blind spot for me.
Yeah.
When I was a kid or when I was like a younger teenager, I was one of those kids that like um horror movies really affected me, like really like made me sick to my stomach, like I couldn't get over like the fact that I like wasn't actually watching somebody get their fingers cut off or getting stabbed or whatever. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so it's just like so like a lot of like stuff that was playing or that plays around with like hyper violence is like a total blind spot for me. Like I
Yeah.
haven't seen a bunch of like I didn't see Die Hard until I was like in my late 20s because I
Oh,
just like
wow.
didn't have I just didn't have anybody around that was like
Yeah.
interested in that stuff, and then I was
Gotcha.
like people dying makes me sick. I don't want to watch I don't want to watch that. But
Yeah.
I like, got a little older, got a little um a little more misanthropic, I guess, a little more
Yeah.
used to the cruelty of the world.
Yeah.
Just have been going back like I've last like 5 years really, and getting a lot of that stuff. So I mean, yeah, I mentioned the Dean De Laurentiis thing. I thought that was interesting. Tangerine Dream is another kind of like blind spot for me as well. Like it's not something that I've connected, but although like as soon as I did see this, I started seeing it everywhere. I tried to watch Thief by Michael Mann the other day, and that was like a Tangerine Dream scare, and it's like, oh okay, these guys are
Love it. Yep.
yeah. seems like a good deal. And also, it reminded me of this thing. This last year, I saw, what was it called? Sorry, let me check my notes. The band's called Goblin, specifically Gladio
Yes.
Simonetti's
Oh yeah.
Goblin. You familiar?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
stuff. Stuff.
we saw him, Erica, my partner Erica, and I saw him live on tour playing the movie, playing I think Demons, or maybe it was Demons 2. But he was basically
Wow.
like he brought a band out and like played the movie in the background without the score, and then just like played the live score. And
Yeah.
yeah, and it's fascinating. I've been really kind of interested in it in the last, I don't know, maybe 6 months since I saw him. The idea of like bands, there was a while where like bands were making some of their side money just scoring like
Oh
shitty
yeah.
horror movies, in like every country. There was like prog rock bands that were like, yeah, we'll also like make your movie for you or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been an interesting thing and like really cool because it's just not a connection that I'd ever thought of. I hadn't really thought of like the music and some of this, or I guess I hadn't like gone back and looked at some of this like I don't want to be condescending, but it's like trashier concepts, like high concept, high fantasy, like vampires and
Yeah.
predators and things like that. But just so much of it is sold by the music. And just this last year, a few years ago, I got a master's in sound design, so I've just been like
Oh awesome.
really turned into onto it now. It's like a storytelling thing, and
Yeah.
it's especially because of the budgets are so cheap. The sound design and the music, it's like I don't know. It's great. It's something that
Right.
like, gets now that everybody can be a musician a little easier. I think that some of the like the quality of that maybe is harder to come across. I don't know. There's just something
Right.
special about these like kind of kind of really really interesting trashy concepts and then people like working their magic to make them work. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not to say like I'd love to talk through the plot before we finish talking. I think that's we'll do talk about just like the things we thought were interesting about it, and then we'll go through the plot real quick. Um, but in general, I was like, another blind spot for me is like Kathryn Bigelow, the director of this.
Yeah. For
Uh,
sure.
yeah, it was like, and then she's done a ton of stuff. Zero Dark 30 is one that I haven't seen in a long time. I saw The Hurt Locker in college, maybe once or twice, and then the big one that like was kind of a another blind spot for me that I don't think I saw until maybe last year or the year before was Point Break.
Oh really? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's. I mean. I mean, obviously, all those other movies are big, big ones. But yeah, Point Break was kind of like oh shit for me as well. It was like wow. Um, yeah, for some, I mean, I don't know why. I mean, like I've seen Point Break 30 plus times and have never noticed the director, and it's just like why. And then like recently, I'm like, okay, Catherine Bigelow, and then all of a sudden, it just kind of came to the forefront, just like wow. And then yeah, the whole I think she was dating James Cameron at this time, which carried into half of the cast from Aliens is in Near Dark, and a lot of collaborative things kind of going along with that as well.
yeah, totally. It's interesting. I mean, I haven't, I didn't like grow up with these movies in my bones. So
Yeah.
kind of objectively, the connection that I'm seeing from them really, her as a director, she's just great at like catching a vibe. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just like
Absolutely.
the atmosphere and all of these are just like super effective. I remember like I didn't really like Hurt Locker. That was the first probably Catherine Bigelow thing that I really saw, and I think I've watched it 1.5 times, but I didn't like it because I mean she captured the vibe so well, but the vibe was like sickeningly tense for me. It was like I don't want to sit around and
Right.
like, watch these guys like
Yeah.
like live in the thought of them exploding because they're like trying to deframe a bomb. Like it was just like
Right.
I was she like did the vibe so well that I was like no,
You're having anxiety
thank you, not
throughout
worth.
the whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like I'm coming here to like to be entertained and not be
Right.
like
Have an
damn.
anxiety attack.
Yeah, 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 exactly. But yeah, and then the other thing about it, I mean, the thing that I thought was really interesting when watching Point Break, and again, I said it, I think I said already, but I think I watched it for the first time maybe 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
She has a real focus on like human connection and human relationships that
Mm-hmm.
she's building inside of her action movies and with Near Dark too. That's one of the things I thought was really interesting about Near Dark was that especially like in the first 5 minutes or so, they have that scene where they're kissing and the main
Yeah.
character gets bit in the neck. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is so like upfront, like emotionally sensual. Like there was like a romantic quality to it that
Right.
I was like, not all most action movies then didn't do stuff like this, and then like
Yeah.
doesn't feel like many movies at all even try to do that now.
Right.
Like, there's just like a real like tender loveness, and then it kind of felt like, oh yeah, and then also it's going to be about vampires. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But
Yeah,
it was done in a way too where it like wasn't over the top dramatic, like if you go back to old Hammer films and like Bela Lugosi stuff, it's like super dramatic, and it was just like I don't even know if I saw like fangs even. It was
right.
just like it was like a kiss, and then there were fang marks on the neck.
Yeah, totally.
So I thought it was done in a different way than audiences expected back then, at least.
Yeah, for sure. Because like I think most directors in that situation are maybe like looking to like show you an exploitative version of that. And this
Right.
was like I was just surprised at how like kind of tender and sweet it was. You know,
Yeah.
especially like
Mhm.
starting your vampire movie with these two people sort of falling in love and
Yeah.
having these like tender moments together. I just thought the sweetness of it was surprising, which is
Yeah.
also like the same thing that I found with Point Break too, where I was like not only the sweetness between Neo, what's his name?
Keanu.
Yeah, Keanu.
Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, Keanu and
Yeah.
Keanu and his lady love, but also Keanu and this and the main. It's better. I have to talk like
Patrick Swayze.
is it Patrick Swayze? Wow. See, I'm so far out of it. Like, I literally saw Roadhouse for the first time maybe 4 months ago.
Oh,
Like, I
yeah.
have no
I'm like
nothing for Swayze.
I'm like a Roadhouse once a year type guy.
It's fun. It was a lot
So
of
yeah.
fun. But yeah,
Yeah.
but like, there's like a tenderness between Keanu and Swayze that's like,
Yeah.
they're doing all of the action stuff that you're seeing, but you're also like watching these two kind of like have a bromance with each other, have a bit of a romance with each other, and then fall out of love
Yeah.
with each other. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just cool. It makes me interested in seeing more of Kathryn Bigelow's stuff because I want to. I think she has a good instinct of being like, I'll give you the explosions and the vampires and whatnot, but we're also going to tell you like a tender human story, which yeah, is like it's just as tricky to find and is like
It
kind
really
of
is.
refreshing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Um, before we go through the plot, you have anything else? Anything else that's screaming to mind?
No. Yeah. Let's break down the plot. I think we'll have some fun with that.
Sweet. All right. This is coming directly from Wikipedia, so bear with me if
Yeah.
editorializes or whatever. One night, Caleb Colton, a young man in a small town, meets an attractive young drifter named May. Just before sunrise, she bites him on the neck and runs off. The rising sun causes Caleb's flesh to smoke and burn. May arrives with a group of roaming vampires in an RV and takes him away. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So
All within like all within like 10 minutes, 15 minutes of the film. Like all of that has taken place. It's crazy.
yeah, man, I really dug a lot of things. It established a ton in that beginning, just like you said.
Yeah.
It was the vibe was so it was so it's such a dusty movie. I mean, it's
Hmm.
definitely parts where I was like, okay, that maybe is a little too much dust, but like the idea
Yeah.
that just like everything is like covered in dirt, and anytime there's like any light creeping into any room, there's like it's like catching a, like mounds of dust flying through the air. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like, and it's a really interesting thing to have this dark, synthy, atmospheric soundtrack. What and then what looks like like a old, you know western town, which it actually is. I think it was filmed in Oklahoma, in the middle of somewhere.
Sure. And it takes place in
Just those two things together is just crazy.
yeah,
Not normal.
yeah, totally. Yeah, coming from Idaho, it's always nice to see. I mean, the small town country version is never the Idaho version, but I still always feel like I have like a little bit of a kinship with it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Hmm.
the first half of From Dusk Till Dawn. There's something about it that's
Oh yeah,
like, oh, this is like almost like growing up, like being like out in the middle of nowhere in like a tiny
for
little
sure.
place in Idaho. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah. So that was another thing that kind of like it's nice to see stuff that's placed out in a world that maybe you don't see every day. So I did appreciate that too.
exactly. Yeah,
Let's see here. Yeah, the roaming vampires are in an RV. They're traveling together by RV. The most psychotic of the vampires, Severin, wants to
yeah,
kill Caleb, but May reveals that she's already turned him. Their charismatic leader, Jesse Hooker, reluctantly agrees to allow Caleb to remain with them for a week to see if he can learn to hunt and gain the group's trust. Caleb is unwilling to kill his feed, which alienates him from the others. To protect him, May kills for him and then has him drink from her wrist.
yeah. Which the the wrist thing is like, I guess I understand it. It's like she's just taking some of her blood that she's used, or that she's taken from a civilian, I guess would be the right word for that. But a little bit of a kind of a stretch on like what's kind of taking place there. But um but 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 I think, like, we know that that's helping him.
Yeah.
I think it is the kind of the main thing there.
Yeah, I know. I really dug the theater of that biting moment. There's like they do this great thing musically where like once he locks into her heart,
Yeah,
like you can start to hear that heartbeat. I mean, it's kind of classic sound design
sure.
stuff, but it really worked for me.
Yeah,
Especially like because they spent that time in the first 10 minutes, like kind of showing us them being sweet on each other when they're like doing those like typical vampire like feeding on each other things. I don't know, they just like
right.
pulled at my heartstrings maybe a little more than it would normally, so I really appreciated that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. uh Jesse's group enters a bar and kills the occupants. That was fun.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's the biggest scene of the film, really, is that whole bar scene. You know, that's, seeing the, Bill Paxton's character just go off the rails, and they kill everybody so coldly. And also, all these people in this bar are not really reacting, like like hardly. Like, the waitress comes over, serves the 11-year-old kid a drink, and then like gets her throat cut, like, just like 30 seconds after that. It's just like, it's crazy. That whole scene is just, will just go down in history.
yeah, it's a great sequence. And it's being able to like follow all of it because it's like one long action sequence that's taking place in like different corners of the bar basically all at the same time. And
Yeah,
just yeah, putting it all together, it's great. And it's that thing where like we started off with it's like we didn't shy away from vampire stuff, but they start with this like romance building, and then you
yeah,
get your second or third act, chaos. So you're like getting
right,
people are getting their theater, they're getting their money's worth. But I don't know, it's just all informed by this like chemistry that Kathryn has seems to have uh, prioritized, you know, growing. Does that make
right.
sense? Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
the two of them, I don't know, they're just sweeties, and I want them to be together, and I want them to be happy. And
yeah,
when they start murdering people and like pulling away, it hurts my heart, but I dig it.
yeah.
Uh, let's see. All except May want to kill Caleb after he endangers them by letting the only living occupant escape. Yeah, right at the very end of that big long sequence. But after
Yeah,
Caleb endangers himself to help him escape their motel room during a daylight police raid, Jesse and the others are gratefully and temporarily mollified. Camaraderie commences with Caleb asking Jesse how old he is, and Jesse responding that he fought for the South during the American War. Excuse me, the American Civil War, not
yes,
just, not maybe not the last American
yes,
War.
yes,
Making him about 150 years old. Severin also suggested earlier that he and Jesse started the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. I think the only thing that this is kind of glazing over that I thought was particularly interesting. I really liked that scene. There's one scene where he like sort of runs away from the vampires and is trying to get a bus
yes,
ride home, and
yeah,
like that cop thinks he's like tweaking, and he's like, that
yeah.
was pretty great.
I, I'm like surprised, like, and then the cop gives him the $3. Like, all right, here's your. I'm like, I don't know if any cop would give somebody $3 to get. It's just like, no, you're coming with me to the station.
Generous, but
Yeah,
that cop also like I don't remember the exact, but he had like a bloody hand that he like managed to rub all up and down his face too.
yeah, and he's just sniffing it. He's just like, ah, give me some of that.
Good stuff. Almost like Three Stoogie, almost, you know.
Almost, yeah,
Uh, so meanwhile, during all of this, Caleb's father has been searching for Jesse's group. A child vampire of the group named Homer, which is like that like 14-year-old kid playing like an immortal ancient. I thought the kid was
right,
okay. It's like it's hard to find, especially at that in that time period, like really good child actors. I'll give him like a
yeah,
you know, not that I could have done any better, but I give him.
yeah. I mean, there's some about him that just like, it makes you just want to like slap him in the face, but at the same time, like, and like, I don't know how many things that that kid's done. He was in a really cool movie called River's Edge as well, but other than that, like, I don't really remember seeing much of him.
Let's see here. Homer from Near Dark, portrayed by Joshua. I had a Joshua, portrayed by. Oh, it's not going to tell me. Portrayed by Joshua John Miller.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm familiar with Joshua John Miller. What did you? I'm sorry. What did you say the show was that you also?
Oh, yeah, so there's this really, really, really good movie called River's Edge. We got Keanu Reeves, we got Dennis Hopper, we got Crispin Glover. Um, it's a weird one too. Very, very culty. You definitely, we might have to cover that one, but
Nice. Yeah, maybe
add that one to your list as well.
for sure. I'm seeing. I'm seeing he was also in Teen Witch. I don't know who
Yeah,
Teen Witch. I guess
yeah,
I've seen mainly the clip of Teen Witch with the rapping, and he could be any
okay,
one of those like rapping teens. He could be the Teen Witch
yeah.
himself. I wouldn't know. So, uh, Homer meets Caleb's sister. They're like, this is the part where they ended up like in the same motel,
Oh
accident.
yeah,
They're on their way out of town. Caleb's father and sister are looking for them. Homer, the littlest vampire, he meets Caleb's sister, the littlest sister Sarah, and wants to turn her into a companion. Obviously, Caleb objects, and while the group argues, Caleb's father arrives and holds him at gunpoint, demanding that Sarah be released. Jesse taunts him into shooting him, then regurgitates the bullet before wrestling the gun away. I thought that was a
yeah,
great bit of vampire schlock. The idea of
yeah.
back up
A
the
little
bullet.
bit of schlock there for sure.
Again, she was like, and I mean, I'm sure. I mean, maybe I'm not sure, but what I think is that I could imagine Kathryn Bigelow, especially at this time, doing that thing that like almost all directors have to do now to get anything with a budget done, where you're just like coming up with the schlock or like the guts, the blood and the guts first, or at
Yeah.
least presenting that first, and then like doing all the other like fun sort of romance stuff that she has kind of woven in around
Oh,
that. You know what I mean?
for sure. Yeah.
Selling the gore as an excuse to tell the love story. You know?
And
Uh,
like I mean, and then obviously she had to put a little bit of humor in there,
mm,
you know. I mean, it's kind of humorous that you just spit out a bullet, and
yeah,
and then pretty much just Bill Paxton's character in general. You have to put the little bit of humor in there just to kind of balance everything out.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with like this sort of sexy vampire subgenre, because if you don't have a sense of humor, then you end up in like Interview with a Vampire territory, which is
Right.
great for Interview with a Vampire specifically, but to me
Yeah.
doesn't really work in much of anything else. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you have to like kind of live in that the gothic existential horror of it if you're going to go that route. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, and I'd just rather see this guy spit bullets up. Sounds was great.
Yeah. Exactly.
Let's see. Jesse again taunts him into shooting him, chase the bullet. In the confusion, Sarah opens a door, letting the sunlight in and forcing the vampires back. Burning, Caleb escapes with his family. Caleb suggests they try giving him a blood transfusion.
And that's, I mean, it's fine, but I mean, it's just like the all those really short scenes between like, oh, the dad and the daughter are kind of coming for him, but he's still like, figuring out if he wants to be with this vampire family or not, and all this other stuff. And then like all of a sudden, he's swept away by his dad, and like I didn't even know he was a you know a vet a veterinary.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
and then like I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I did remember he was like giving a lamb of some medicine. I'm like, oh okay. And then like all of a sudden we're in a room giving a blood transfusion. you know
For sure. Yeah, this is again. This feels like something that's stitched in by like not a vampire movie lover, but somebody who's trying to make a
Right.
vampire movie work for themselves. And I think it's a great idea. Like I think
Yeah.
I like the idea that like you could do a full blood transfusion and vampire somebody. Like I
Yeah.
just think the idea that there's like a quick fix that like nobody's thought about for hundreds and thousands of centuries. It's
Right.
like, just swap
Yeah.
out all the blood, dummy. Then they got human
And
blood, they're fine.
yeah. And then like, I mean, and then that it kind of makes the once we get to it, like like the final scene, like he comes in there as a human and is gonna battle these vampires as a human. So
Yeah, totally. Like puts him at the lowest stakes possible to like give that as much tension. Totally. Because I
let
mean,
alone let alone roll in on a horse.
yeah. That horse thing, I thought that was great.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're almost there. He basically
Yeah.
gets out of the. He basically comes out of the blood transfusion and is miraculously cured.
Yeah.
And then later, like it's like that night, the vampires show up to try and recapture his sister. He
Yeah.
just, he discovers the kidnapping, but they're gone. Discovers all of his tires clashed, and so he has to go back on horseback. Um,
Right.
I remember one of the things that hit me a little weird in the first sequence was that moment where they like stopped in those first couple of moments of the movie, is when uh, when Caleb took May to check out that horse and having the horse freak out, and she's like, "Oh, horses just don't like me, I guess." I think I wrote in my
Yeah.
notes said no non-vampire ever. It was like
Yeah.
such a giveaway.
Yeah.
And I thought it was kind of silly at the beginning, but then when they did this thing, this like he has to go in on horseback for this final confrontation, and then he
Yeah.
gets there, and it's like he's looking so cool riding high, but then they get
Right.
there, he sees the vampire, and the horse immediately throws him, and so
Yeah.
he's
He's like,
on
I'm
the
out.
gas. Yeah, it's almost like all the coolness is immediately gone. Hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was so well done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like that end sequence. To be honest, I don't really. It's been a week and a half. No, it's been maybe a week or so. But I
Yeah.
don't really remember much about that end sequence. It didn't like. I was so
It's
delighted by him like getting knocked on his ass that it was like, all right, and then finish it up so we can finish it up.
okay. So Caleb's they're after him. He's trying to get his sister back. And then Homer gets out of the station wagon and just starts burning up, which is like, and then you have this really driving Tangerine Dream score all of a sudden, and it's all slow motion. And I guess the way they did that was they used tobacco. I guess was like the only like legal thing that they could use on a minor back then, and like it's crazy how they got away with that, but
So they lit a bunch of tobacco like inside the jacket or whatever.
Yes, yeah, with like holes in the jacket,
Wow, it's good.
and like it's just crazy. And then yeah, I mean that scene is just like that's for some reason that's the scene I think of when I think of Near Dark. It's just that driving score. Homer's burning up trying to get to Caleb's sister, and then yeah, and then like shortly after that, you can kind of see that Lance Hendrickson's character uh and I forget her name, Razorback, Silverback,
Diamondback.
Diamondback. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Um,
Razorback would have worked for me. I just happened to be looking at it right now.
yeah, and you can just see that they're like they're at the point where it's like, yeah, let's just die. It's like we're good.
Yeah,
This is fine. We're sick of being here. So
yeah. They've been wandering around being scumbums since the Civil War.
yeah,
You know.
exactly. Civil War,
Wow.
exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I like the final ending was great for me. Um, Bill Paxton was a little bit schlocky, but like the final message was awesome for me. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we find they it ends right. They after they blowing up, they basically like I don't know if they fade to black. I don't remember how they transition away, but basically it's like the next day, and then May wakes up having been reconstituted, right, and blood
Right.
transfused, and they get to like live
Yeah.
happily ever after as humans, which is
Yeah.
like a nice, cute, romantic comedy end to a vampire movie, you know?
Yeah. It's like oh, cool. You can just live here with my family, and we're all good now.
Kind of a fun blending of those two for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, killer. So let me think here if I have anything else on my I guess at the end of this I'm gonna give these a rating. I started like a little list for myself just to keep track of like every film I've ever watched. I'm gonna try and put it all into one dumb little document. Um,
Awesome.
yeah. So I want to give it a rating and then just like the yes or no, is it worth watching? I definitely say yes, it was worth watching. I thought it was a lot of fun. Um, it didn't maybe shake me to my core, but there were like made me laugh and made me wince. It's like you can't
Yeah.
ask too much more from a good genre. It's kind of a cheaper genre thing like that, you know?
Yeah. And then that was her second movie too. So I mean, it was probably relatively low. I mean, it wasn't low budget, but I think there was a budget, lower budget kind of thing going on there.
Yeah, totally. It's that thing where it's like as low of a budget as you can get by like co-opting the cast of aliens, you know?
Right.
Like
Exactly.
maybe yeah, I mean it all like, it all takes place in a very, very real, very dusty places, in a way
Right.
that's like
Exactly.
maybe not super cost effective. Maybe it is
Yes.
cost effective to shoot there, like planning
Yeah.
around. Makes a lot
Right.
of sense to me. I'm gonna say I don't know. We'll give it 3.5 out of 5 for my
Yeah. I
note.
think that's a good score. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, not too bad at all. Yeah, highly would definitely recommend, especially if you're like I said, you're looking for something vampiric with like a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of that horror and that sweet, and a little bit of funny. I think
Yeah.
it's all there for you. It's good.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Corey, for talking through this with me. This went better than I thought. This is cool. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, we have just a couple of minutes left before the Zoom convo cuts us off.
Okay.
Is there anything that you want to, anything you want to pitch, promote, anything that if somebody who didn't know you or watching this for the first time might want to know about you?
I mean, I guess the main thing would just be, you know, I'm here with you right now just because I'm just a diehard film fan. Obviously, I'm a musician and have several projects, but I really get inspired by films more than I do music. Um, I'll watch a movie and then like all of a sudden like riffs or things will start coming to me. So film is just a big part of my life, and how I incorporate it through my other media. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, I'm very much the same way. Uh,
yeah,
yeah. So that's awesome. Well, if on my end, if for some, I'm going to post this on my social, so I don't know why you wouldn't know me already, but if you don't, make psychedelic pop sometimes with the Green Zoo, and I make power metal sometimes with By Fire and Sword. We're working on new stuff with both to be, that person who tells you to stay tuned for big news ahead, but
yeah.
stuff's in the works. Um, cool.
And I've heard of Green Zoo, and I'm super into that. I don't think I've ever seen y'all live, but yeah, I look forward to that for sure.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Cory. Um, yeah, thank you.
Hell yeah,
We'll
yeah.
definitely do this again if you're up
Yeah,
for it.
yeah. I'd love to talk. Uh, Obviously, any of the movies I've already sent you, and then like, yeah, anything else that you want to review. This is definitely something I very much enjoy. So thanks for having me, man.
Killer. Yeah. Again, thanks for being had.
Yeah.
Um,